Hey there, welcome back. So here I have an adventure game. It's a very simple adventure game. I have this little guy who can walk around. Now I want this diamond over here. Now there's a problem, as you can see. The road is blocked by these monsters and I don't have a weapon, so I can't defeat them. Also, there's an obstacle here at the end. So how can I get this diamond without a weapon? Well, I'll show you how. I'll get the diamond by doing this. That's it. I'm jumping in the adventure module. How is that possible? Let's take a closer look. Before we begin today, I just want to make you aware of something. Now, a couple of days ago, I uploaded a full set of asset packs for all the NESmaker modules. So these are assets for every module in NESmaker. So graphics, background palettes, game objects, and so on. So I have a full set of that for every module. So in case you want to play around with something, just test something, or perhaps you want to try out a new tutorial without making a full test game first, I got you covered. So here we can see the test games with the assets. So there are two separate downloads. One that's only the game assets. So if you just need some objects or palettes or whatever, you can download that here. But down here I have a zip file with a full test game for every module. So in case you want to try a tutorial, like I said, you can just download this and it will make it much easier for you. So just wanted to make you aware of that. I'll leave the link in the description. But we're here to talk about jumping in the adventure module. Now, I don't know how this happened, but NESmaker, who made this earlier this year, in January in fact, and I didn't know about it until just a few days ago. So what I found was absolutely amazing. NESmaker is like is a superstar in the NESmaker community. He has made so many cool tutorials for us, and this one is really amazing. So this tutorial, like you saw in the intro, will allow the player in an adventure game to jump. Now, of course, normally you can't do that. So what we're going to do now is very simple. We're just going to follow this tutorial and I'll show you a few things as we go along. So over here I have a very basic adventure game. Nothing special, just one screen, a few enemies and some solid blocks. And I've got this little diamond over here. So if I run this, we can see there's nothing special about it. Can just walk around. So I need to make this guy be able to jump. So just a basic adventure game, nothing special. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to follow this tutorial step by step. So let's start at section 1 here, step 1. So we need to start this tutorial by adding a few object variables. So object variables, I'm just going to open project settings here and object variables. Now let me just mention a quick thing about object variables. So we have different kinds of variables here in NESmaker. Now object variables are a little special because they're not really variables. You can think of them as tables. So each one of these in the list is not one variable, it's a table. And each of these has 13 entries as it stands right now. Total object count 13. So for example, object x high, that means that every single object needs an x position. So that's why there are 13 entries here. There's one for the y position because every object needs a y position. So every one of these has 13 entries. So if you see total bytes used here, 247, if I add one more now, that number goes up to 260. Because every time you add something, it adds 13 bytes. So a table. Now, let's start adding these object variables. So I'm just going to copy and paste over here. So I just added one, so I'll just paste it in like that. And I'll just go back and forth doing that. So in the next one, copy, make a new object variable, paste it in like that. And I'm gonna do the same for the rest of these. So just a simple copy and paste it in for the new object variable name. So object C speed low, just one more. Copy, add, and rename it. So here in step 2, NEStist talks about what I just mentioned. We need to reduce the object count down to below 10. We need total bytes used down to below 250. Now, if we go back here, we see that total bytes used right now is 312. So, just by reducing this number, total object count, NEStist told us below 10. So if I set this to 9, now we have a total bytes used 216. So that's fine. So this is just something to keep in mind. If you just want one simple variable, you shouldn't use the object variables because those are basically tables. So if you just want a normal variable, you should probably just use the user variables. Anyway, so now we have added the object variables and we have reduced the object count. Now the object count, that's the maximum number of objects for your game. So we can have 9 objects on the screen at once, and that's more than enough. We have seen before that just by having 4 or 5 objects on the screen, that creates slowdown. So 9 is more than enough. Okay, so let's continue on here. Step 3, add these to overflow RAM. So now we're going to add some variables to the overflow RAM. Now these are normal variables. So I'm just going to start on the top of the list here, C hold low, copy that, and go to overflow RAM. Here I'm going to add a new one, and it appears on the bottom, so I need to scroll down, and I'll just rename that to C low hold low. And I copy the next one, C hold high, add a new one, and rename that C hold high. Self head, copy that one, add, and paste that in there. And let's see, self head, so self feet, add a new one, paste it in, and just 2 more, other head, so copy that, add a new one, paste it in, other head, and other feet, that's the last one. So there we go. So now we have a few new object variables and a few new variables here in overflow RAM. Alright, So that's enough for the variables. So I'm just going to close project settings here. Now next is adding a jump input script, because of course normally we don't have a jump input script for the adventure module, but CynesTest has made one for us here. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to go to my NESmaker folder. I'm going to go to Game Engine Data, Routines, Base 45, Game, and Mod Adventure Base. And I'm going to go into Inputs, and here in the Inputs folder I'm just going to right click and create a new text document. And I'm going to call this one Jump Adventure Base. And I'm going to make sure to change .txt to .asm. So now I have a blank assembly file called Jump Adventure Base. Right, so I just open up that one and I just write a comment that says jump input, like that. Now I'll just go back to the tutorial and I copy this code for the jump input script that CynesTest made. So I copy that, go back to my jump input script and paste it in there. So like that. And then I just save this new input script. Now of course we have to import this input script in NESmaker. So let's just do that right now. So I'm gonna go over to my NESmaker and here in Scripts, Input Scripts, I'm gonna go to Base 45, Game, Mod Adventure Base, and Inputs. And there is my new jump script that I just made. So I'm gonna double click on that one. Then I'm gonna go to the input editor. I'm gonna say in the main game, and I press the A button, I'm gonna run the new jump input script. So add that one. So now we have a jump input script in the adventure module. But we're not quite done yet. So the next thing here is that we need to modify the physics script in NESmaker. So here CynesTest tells us to open the physics script. So we need to go to project settings, script settings, and it's all the way here at the bottom where it says subroutines. So I'll just select that one and click edit. Okay, so here he says right under this part, around line 32 to 36 somewhere, he says we're going to add this. So I'm just going to copy this code that he made, copy all of that, and I need to add it under this part, around 32 to 36. So let's see if I can find this thing. 32 to 36, that's this part right here. So CynesTest told us to add this new code right below that one. So I copied it from the tutorial, so now I'm just going to paste it in here. So like that. And I'll just save the file. Okay, so back to the tutorial. Now we've added something to the physics script. Then he says, drawing the jump. So we need to edit the handle doDrawSprites file. So let's just go back to NESmaker, project settings, script settings, and handle drawing sprites, doDrawSprites. So I'm going to select that one and click edit. Here he says around lines 40 to 48 we can see this, and he says we need to add just a single line of code in here, and that's this one right here. So I'm going to select that one, copy. Now we need to see exactly where it has to go. It needs to go between the SBC cam Y here and STA temp B. We need to squeeze it between those two lines, like we can see here. Alright, so this is around 40 to 48. So let's go down to 40 to 48. That's this part here. 40 to 48. And we need to squeeze it between SBC cam Y and STA temp B. So between those two lines. Cam Y, that's here. So I'll just add a new line between there, and I'll just paste in this new line that I copied. And I'm going to save that file. Alright. Now, let's just continue on here. And next is adding a shadow. So this is really cool because he's added this little detail. So when the player jumps, you can actually see a shadow below him. So he says this step is optional, but he recommends it, and I agree with him. It really adds something to the jump effect here. So what he says we need to do is to copy this code from step 7. Need to copy this, and we need to paste it at the very bottom of the doDrawSprites file. So let's go back to the doDrawSprites file, and let's go all the way to the bottom of the file. So that's here, all the way at the bottom of doDrawSprites. So I'm just going to paste in that code from SinussTest and save the file. Alright, and by the way, he talks about it here as well. You need to draw a little sprite here for the shadow. So he drew a little thing here, and the way he has set that up now is that this needs to be sprite number 3C in hexadecimal. Now this is the reason I don't like to use hexadecimal numbers for things like this, because I need to go need to open a calculator, and I need to say, okay, 3C. Okay, that's 60 in normal in normal decimal. So 60. So if I go back to NESmaker now and open up my pixel editor, and I open up the game object tiles, sprite number, let's do it this way, sprite number 60, that's this one. So the way he has set this up by default is to use this exact sprite tile, and this is number 60. As you know, we start counting from 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 16, 17, and so on, all the way down here to 60. Now, of course, you can change this if you want. So I could replace this 3C with something else. But since I do have sprite on the correct position here, I'm just gonna leave it as it is. It's just something to be aware of. Right. So now we have modified the doDrawSprites file. We actually have a sprite graphic. Now he says we need to adjust the player settings because we need to set a jump speed. Now this is something new, of course, for the adventure module, because up until now we haven't been able to jump in the adventure module. And he says he recommends starting with a jump speed of 48. So let's go back to the player object here. Player object details. So like I said, normally in the adventure module we don't use this one, but now we need to use it. So let's set 48 like SinussTest recommended. So now this guy has a jump speed of 48. Alright, and then he says we're done. we have added jumping. We can test that out. All right, let's do it. Let's see if we can jump in the adventure game now. All right, so I'm walking around and look at that. He's jumping. This is super cool, I think. And this, of course, adds a lot of new possibilities when you're creating a game like this, a top-down game. But what about these enemies? If I go over here, let's collide with this enemy. I get hurt. What if I jump over him? Well, I can't jump over him. So right now, the jumping is just a cool effect. It doesn't really do anything. And NEStist talks about that right here. He says, we have jumping, it looks cool, sure, it really does, but like he says, it doesn't really do anything. So we need to do a few more things to really give this some sort of meaning. So we're gonna change the object collision detection for this. So we need to open a new file, the handle object collision file. So let's go back to NESmaker, project settings, script settings, and once again we need to go all the way down here and find handle object collisions. So I'm gonna select that one and click edit. Back to the tutorial, and now he says in the handle object collisions file around line 47 we'll see something like this. Right under STA bounce bottom and above TYA we need to wedge in this little bit of code. So I'm gonna copy this code here and I need to add it between these two lines of code. That's around line 47. So let's go back to the handle object collisions file. And line 47, that's here. So I need to add it between these two lines. So I'll just add a blank line here. And I'm gonna paste in the code I copied from the tutorial. And save that. Alright, so let's continue on here. Step 2, setting up the other, right? So now we need to open the compare bounding boxes script. So let's go back to NESmaker and project settings, script settings, and let's select this compare bounding boxes file. Do compare bounding boxes. It's almost at the bottom here. Compare bounding boxes. Edit. Alright, so he says around line 65 below STA other center and above PLA we need to add this little piece of code. So I'm gonna copy that and around line 65, so around there below STA other center Y. Alright, so let's go down 65, that's around here. Now, it's not exactly 65, but it's below this one. STA other center Y. That's where I need to copy this piece of code. So copy it there and save the file. I'm gonna paste it in there. Alright, so we have added we add the Z-axis checks for the compare bounding boxes. Okay, so up higher in the same file, the compare bounding boxes file, around lines 17 to 26, it looks like this, it says. But we need to modify it to look like this. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to copy this piece of code right here, And I'm gonna replace this default one with this. And this is around line 17 to 26. Right, so compare bounding boxes. 17 to 26, yeah, there it is. This piece of code. So I'm just gonna select this, and I've already copied from the code from the forum. So while this is selected, I'll just paste it in so to replace the default code. So there we go. Now I have replaced it with the code from the tutorial. And I'll save that file. Alright, so let's continue on. Alright, he says we're done. That's really cool. So let's go back to the NESmaker game now. And let's test it out. Let's see if I can jump over an enemy. Now, technically I can, but still I might not be able to. Let's see how this goes. Right, so I can jump as we just saw, but can I jump over an enemy? Well, I'm having a little problems. Yeah, so I'm having a few issues here. Now, this is not NEStist's fault. The tutorial works great, but this is something that you need to adjust to your game if you're going to use this. We need to think about things like the speed of the player and the jump strength and stuff like that. So the problem now is that I'm not moving fast enough. I'm too slow and I'm not jumping high enough. So I probably could have if I really tried to jump over an enemy, but now it's a little too hard. I wouldn't put something like this in a complete game. So let's see if we can do something about that. So I'm gonna go to object details here on the player. Here under details, I'm actually gonna give him a faster speed. So I'm gonna, instead of 16, I'm gonna give him 24. I'm also gonna make him jump higher. Right now I've set it to 48. I'm gonna change this to 64. So now he's gonna move faster and jump higher, and that's gonna make it much easier for him to jump over an enemy. Let's see how that works. Alright, so we can see that he's moving faster and he is also jumping much higher. So now it should be easy to jump over an enemy, and there we go. I'm jumping over an enemy, no problem. So that's really cool. And of course, just to show you that I'm actually jumping over him, if I don't jump over him, I get hurt like normal. So I am actually jumping over him here. Alright, that's great, really cool. But what about this little diamond here? Right now I have made some solid tiles around here, so I can't get in here. Now this jumping thing only applies to jumping over enemies right now, but NEStist got us covered here, because he says, but wait, what about tiles? So here he says, if we want to be able to jump over a tile, we can just add this tiny little piece of code to the beginning, at the beginning of a tile code. So the question is, should we just modify the solid tiles so that we can just jump over the solid tiles? Well, that's something you need to think about, but I just wouldn't recommend doing that, because look at this screen right now. I have solid tiles around it like this. Now I always do stuff like that, especially in adventure games like this, because I want to stop the player from going places that I don't want him to be. So let's say that we modify the solid tiles now. Alright, sure, he could jump over here to get the diamond, but he could also jump over these solid tiles at the edge of the screen. Now that's probably going to create problems for me, because then he goes off screen. And if I haven't made anything here on the left side, then he's just going to end up in some random screen. So what I want to do, I want to keep the normal solid tiles. So if the player is jumping up against a normal solid tile, he just stops, even if he's jumping. But I do want a special solid tile that he can jump over. So let's make something like that. It's really simple actually. I'll just go to my NESmaker folder here under Game. Here under Base 4.5 Game, we have this folder called Tile Scripts. I'm going to go into Tile Scripts, and there is the solid tile code. So I'm just going to copy this solid tile. Copy that, and then I'm going to go to Game, Mod Adventure Base. Inside the Mod Adventure Base, I'm going to go to the Tiles folder. And I'll just paste in the solid tile code. I'm going to rename this solid tile code to jumpable solid tile. So I'm going to open this new jumpable solid tile, and I'm just going to write jumpable solid tile. This is going to be my new jumpable solid tile code. Right now it's just a normal solid tile, but now I'm going to do what Synestheist said. I'm going to add this little piece of code here, so I'm going to copy that and add it to the beginning of the tile code. So I'm just simply going to paste that in right there. And now I have a new jumpable solid tile. So a solid tile which will be solid if you walk against it, but we can jump over it. Alright, so now I need to go back to NESmaker. Project settings, tile types. I'm going to use tile 9 for this. So I'll just rename tile 09 to jumpable solid. Jumpable solid. Alright, and script settings. I chose tile 9 for this, so I need to choose tile 9 here as well. And then go to Base 4.5, Game, Mod Adventure Base, Tiles. And there's my jumpable solid tile code. Double click on that, and now I have a new tile type. So right now I've set these tiles up as normal solid tiles. So let's just to be sure that we know that this is working like it should, I'm gonna test this first with the normal solid tiles. So if I walk against them, of course I stop. But what if I jump? Well, if I jump, I also stop. So I can't jump over normal solid tiles. Alright. Now let's change these tiles to jumpable solid. So jumpable solid. So I'm just gonna change these, not all of the solids, but just these ones that are surrounding the diamond. Change these ones to jumpable solid. So now I should be able to jump over these tiles here. Alright, let's see if that works. Now there's one more thing I need to mention, but I'm gonna show you this first. So can I jump over these rocks over here now? I can. Of course these are solid, so I can't walk against them, can't walk through them. But can I jump over them? Yes, I can. I can jump over them, and now I can get this diamond. So this is super cool stuff. I think it's amazing what Synestheist has done here. It really adds so many, gives us so many possibilities for to create games. But what was that I said about these jumpable solid tiles? Well, once again, this is something you need to think about if you're going to use this in a game, because these jumpable tiles, they're great like this. I can jump over them, and since I can't jump over normal solid tiles, I can't jump here. So it works great. But what if I jump from here to the right? Then I'll land on top of these jumpable solids. And of course I get stuck here, but I can jump to get out of that. But, you know, maybe not something you want in your game. So same thing if I do it here. Then I get stuck as well. So a simple workaround for that would be to just replace this corner tile, just this one. Use a normal solid for that. So just this single one here at the corner, because by doing that, now I can't jump this way and I can't jump that way. So let's see if that works. So I can of course jump here, here, but if I try to jump here, I can't. What about this way? I can't, because this tile right here is now a normal solid tile, like these other ones. So if I need to make absolutely sure that I stop the player, I just make it a normal solid tile. But these jumpable solids, yeah, I can jump over them, no problem. Of course, you can still like do something like, you know, time your jumps so you still land on top of them, but at least we've fixed the problem a little bit. So it's just something to think about when you're making games like this. But that's it. This tutorial is fantastic, and it has been so much fun to play around with this. And I think it's just amazing that Synestheist figured this out. It's really, really cool. So I'll leave the link for that tutorial in the description. But that's it for now. So I hope you have fun with this, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.